there's some good classic Warhammer board games. Like, what was that? Chaos in the Old World. Very good.
Team Manager, whatever it was.
Blood Bowl Team Manager was really solid, actually. Really fun. Fantasy Flight actually did a great job. What was that? 15, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, they did some really good ones. Yeah, there was card games. There was, a bunch of games that were pretty good.
And now, like, nothing.
Nothing.
Just a dust ball just going across the screen or whatever.
Like, yeah.
So, hey guys, welcome to another Lords of Wargames live video. I'm Chris, this is Jay, if you're tuning in for the first time. And we had a Patreon actually ask us about this question exactly. It's like, why is it that Games Workshop hasn't, in an era where they seem to be just, throwing frisbees and hitting people in the head with their IP.
Yes.
Literally anybody who asks for it gets it. You get it.
Yep.
Look under your chair. You get one.
Yeah.
There's not really any new board games for Warhammer. It's kind of crazy. So I don't know. What do you think? Like, obviously we don't know. Like,
we have no idea. Actually,
you turn the video off now. Like,
this is the third video of the week. So
we're getting speculative here.
Garbage.
We're getting really speculative.
Just making stuff up.
We're going to use informed decision making here. Try to figure it out.
Well, my guess is maybe that they've decided to harness their miniatures more. So what they've been doing for the last couple of years is making products like they have a Dark Tide board game that comes with some of their minis. There was another one they made, which I can't remember. Someone really is trying to reach us today. What was another one they made? I feel like there was another tie-in. I can't recall what it was, but it was like that though. Where they're like, oh, here's a little board. We slam some things together. Here's some minis and a quick little board game. It's not meant to be like expanded on. It's not like a Warhammer Underworlds. We're going to add more to it. I mean, you could argue Warhammer Underworlds is also a board game. So I think they just are like, we're going to make our own board games and incorporate our miniatures into them. Is what was my best guess here. Is why they're not. And didn't they also make? Didn't they have other little card games and stuff that they made? I never played it. Was it combat cards or something? Or I don't know.
Something like that.
I don't know if that was they made it or someone else made it. So
yeah, it does seem like they're going back to the roots of we used to make Space Hulk and we used to make Warhammer Quest, and so maybe we're gonna just try and do that ourselves because we're a company that makes things. So why can't we make them? And I think while that is a very sensible thing to do, I think what's missing there, I think for them, because I think they have aspirations to be this huge brand. I think you have to acknowledge that board games are completely their own thing to some degree, right? Not everyone is going to buy a board game that has models you have to put together in it.
Sure.
So I think, quite frankly, they're leaving a ton of money and opportunity on the table by not making games like that Fantasy Flight used to make, which are just classic board games with components and boards.
Sure.
That would just completely appeal to people that have no interest in building and painting miniatures.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's and it still harnesses the IP and art and lore. Like the one you mentioned, Chaos in the Old World, which was a favorite of ours. Did a really great little job. It was like a little quasi-risk game where you took territories and spread your influence, and there was a little point track. Yeah, it felt very Warhammery. Yeah, you were you felt there's a game that would reissue really well right now with all the Old World stuff or whatever. And I don't know if they ever made they had made various card games. But even I haven't seen it. What's the last card game that I remember? Was it that Age of Sigmar one that they did for a minute?
Yeah, that was a hot minute.
That was someone else made. These things usually do pretty well. They don't. I know there. Yeah, there's other crossovers you've gotten. There was 40K Magic also did super well. So yeah, they seem to be really tight on that front, even though it seems to slam dunk sell out. People jump on it like it's
it is odd, right? Like we were talking about this like a few months back when the Space Marine 2 game was like such a success. It's like it seems like such a missed opportunity to not have these like ancillary products that are tied in with the success of their like non-miniature games, you know? Like you have this like huge opportunity to like cast a wide net with these video games, and I think you obviously have to realize that not everyone's going to go from the video game to building and painting miniatures. There are a significant number of people that probably are doing that and did do that. But there's another, area of people that like, maybe they'd buy a, I don't know, my mind thinks of like this silly game that we were supposed to play one day, Opus Trionis or whatever.
Oh yes,
which is like a historical game where your regiments use cards and you like play a battlefield. I'm like, immediately I'm like, how is Total War not like have a version of that?
Yeah,
where you can like have like a battle, because like you're basically like enable and it's not. I know their fear often is like we don't want to give people an option to go away from the miniatures. Instead, it's like, you can just enjoy this experience with not the miniatures. You can do it, and then they're missing out on all the sales there. I just don't. I think that's a very like cynical and not even intelligent way to look at it.
Yeah, Yeah, the video games are different. I think the video games do sell miniatures because you're seeing 3D models of the figures, and then you're like, I want to have one.
Yes.
But yeah, the board game gets way more abstract because you don't need minis at all. They can be little cardboard tokens and chits and cards or just cards. That's a good question. I have no idea why they are not pursuing that more. It seems missed and even to like hammer them a little bit more on this, because I think there's fair criticism here. They're not even doing a good job of the other way, which is like when they put out like a Dark Tide game, it's like it clearly was developed really quickly and it's not really absolutely
like a great product, right?
No.
It's not it's a cobbled together thing that's really cool, but man, imagine they set out to design a Dark Tide board game from the beginning,
like a proper one,
properly, and we're talking like a huge, like something like Space Hulk came out 20 years ago, like that's the type of thing. They're not even trying to do that anymore, which I think like it's like pick a lane and go towards it.
They do really, they are quite I don't want to say lazy, but just like I guess that might be the best word, because in a funny way,
risk-averse maybe is
but in a funny way, they do make a lot of board games. They're just not like good board games. They're not actually board. It's like the thinnest of veils. Like in theory, like a Hive Storm is a board game because you have like the board and minis and two teams and like all the tokens and things. And the Dark Tide is like that, and it's like, so they like even Underworld's like you could make that purely a board game, like if you wanted, like for that market.
Underworld, I think, is probably the best example of that. Yeah,
like they could just deal. They could just. The funny about Underworld is you could strip the minis out completely, and then sell it for board game price, because now it's just all cardboard and cards. Maybe it's a $50 or $40 game or whatever, and then you can mass market it into stores. It probably would do better, frankly, like from that perspective. And then, but there's other things that they like historically do extremely well in terms of like how fast it sells out. But they don't. You would think they would do this like year after year, like the Cursed Cities and the Warhammer Quest products. Like they're just so. What do we do? We got one Cursed City thing, and then a couple of small expansions, and that was it. And it's like the people that are in
Blackstone Fortress did really well. Warhammer Quest.
We got to go back to that setting too. Yeah. And they usually make them in small numbers.
It's just funny for like a company that puts out like a big box that costs $200 to $300 every like 2 to 3 weeks. It's funny how there's not more of those throughout the year. These like one-off products that like people can just appreciate and enjoy, because they become like cult, like to a point. People love them.
I mean, so they just call them boxed games. And they seem to not do them as much as I thought. Or they really want them to be like these super like the Titanic is Grandmaster Edition or something. Like has to be this like really chunkin', like almost new edition type of release. I think they do miss out on some of that. The company is Games Workshop. You could make more games.
You can make more games.
Yeah. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I don't know. It is.
It is a bit of a head scratcher. You have like when you just think about the resources the company has, like you could maybe put like one guy in charge of this for the whole year.
Yeah.
And I would have a hard time seeing like how would the guy not make his.
There probably is only one guy. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They probably could use two guys or whatever. Like,
2 guys.
We could. That's 100%.
Who's paying for that, Jay?
Yeah, wow.
Are you going to pay
Price
for that?
increase.
Price increase. 2025.
2025.
It's coming.
It's coming. It's coming.
It's always coming.
March 2025.
Can't stop what's coming.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Are you ready to spend $100 on 10 Space Marines or whatever? It's gonna happen.
Dude, that's gonna be a day one day. That's the reality right there.
It is
completely different segue, but
well, we've covered this board game thing to death or whatever.
To death. We're like half the length of our usual video. We're like, all right, this topic is done. Or whatever. Garbage time starts early today, guys.
They used to make more board games, and now they don't, and I think it's dumb. Like, and maybe it's the Fantasy Flight thing. That's another, that's an angle actually I just thought of that I didn't even think about. There's probably other board game publishers.
You know who I want to see make a Warhammer game? Stonemaier.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, he would just
couldn't they do?
He would just make Wingspan, but with old world stuff in it or something. It would be, I don't know. He would just make the same.
Imagine
game.
Scythe with like.
It would be Scythe with Warhammer. Warhammer Scythe would be also really good, actually. Yeah, little Eldar and little Tau and little whatever fighting over some planetary. It's literally writes itself. Yeah, you could do it. No, but I mean, if they, they're not, like, for example, like the Fantasy Flight's not going to do that for them anymore because they're owned by Asmodee and they're a competing company now who makes miniature games. Yep. So they're not going to do that.
Yeah, so
maybe it's finding the right partner.
Like they lost their bedfellow that made sense at the time.
Well, and they had easy distribution and all that. Like even Stonemaier games or whatever is relatively small. And who else is making these types of board games? Steamforged games. So not going to go. They're going to work with them. So that's
the thing that's funny though is like it. And this is probably more of just like it's just the same reasons like Chris and Jay, why don't you carry X product? Mm-hmm. And the answer sometimes is as simple as like, well, it's a bit of a hassle.
It's a bit of a hassle,
and that could be literally the reason why they're not making their own like regular style board games now, because they have the distribution network. It's called Games Workshop stores and us. Mm-hmm. They like if they made a Scythe 40K Scythe style game that was just like board game components and whatever, and had it for X price or whatever. Yeah, they just sell directly to us with the regular orders that we make. But thinking about it, like it might just be as simple as like we don't really want to. Yeah. Because that just gets in the way of like the things we normally do. It's like asking Lego why they don't make board games or something. Because we make miniatures. That's why.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we made it to 13 minutes, and then we're out of content today.
For this topic.
What do you guys think? What's your favorite board game that you've enjoyed in the past?
For Christmas? Yeah.
What do you? What would you like to see Games Workshop do for a board game if they ever made one in the future? Let us know in the comments. And thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Bye.